Hi everyone, it's James here. Welcome to another video, and this is going to be a topic which has been on my mind recently. I thought I would just pose the question to the vinyl community and to YouTube land at large. What is a vinyl grail? Now, the idea for this came to me. I was out digging in my local antiques emporium and I came across this record. This is Autobahn by Kraftwerk, an album which I've been looking for a long time. I was aware that there was some kind of reissue of it. I think I saw one, in fact, in HMV not so long ago. But I've always fancied having an original copy of it. Now, I saw this one at the antiques place. It's in great condition, and I was really excited to pick it up. There's the Kraftwerk boys on the back, and I'll show you the label. And it turns out that this is an original German copy from 1974, so it's an original German pressing by arguably the most famous German pop group of all time. And once I discovered that, I kind of thought to myself, yeah, that's kind of what I would think of as being a grail, really. I mean, it was a grail that I never really even thought I would ever own, an original German copy. Now, I don't know if these are really rare. I mean, I never see Kraftwerk records in the wild as a rule. You know, I never see them in charity shops. But, you know, it got me thinking about grails, and I think, you know, on the vinyl community, I sometimes get the impression that the word grail is used either with extreme caution by some people, other people perhaps overuse it, and I think there are some people who feel a bit restrained about using it. That it's almost like they don't want to use the word. They sort of apologise as they use it. You know, they say, you know, I don't like using the word grail, but this is a grail to me. And I thought that was interesting, just this idea that people perhaps feel a bit uptight about it. They don't like to use the word, and think perhaps there's a perception in some courses that the word is overused. I've heard other people saying, you know, almost being a bit thought police about it, or language police-like about it, you know, saying I don't hold with this idea of referring to any record that you're looking for and you've been looking for it for a long time as a grail. I think there are some people who like to reserve the word grail for truly special, rare records. And, you know, I think I probably in the past have erred to the other side of the fence, where I perhaps tend to overuse the word. If I've been looking for a record for a while, often, you know, in a video I will say this is a grail. So what do you think? What's your kind of take on this? Occasionally I sometimes think that there are grails and you think that they're going to be really hard to find, and then it turns out that they're not that hard to find at all. So an example would be this. About 6 months ago I decided I really wanted a mono copy of Rubber Soul, because I've never really liked the stereo version, but I didn't really hold out any hope of being able to find one. And then I found one at my local market stand. It's not in the best condition, but it's alright, it's highly listenable, and it's, you know, it did the job, and I was really pleased to get it. So what do you think? Is that a grail? A mono copy of Rubber Soul? I mean, my take on this, I don't know whether we can't be too precious about it, you know. I mean, how rare does a record need to be in order for it to be a grail? You know, are we literally saying, okay, I want a first issue of Please Please Me in immaculate condition, signed by all four Beatles, and, you know, anything less than that is not really a grail. It's just, you know, it's a special item on my wants list, but it's not particularly a grail. Or are we saying, no, it's, you know, it's not to do with how rare the record is or how expensive the record is. I mean, you know, that's a big thing. I sometimes wonder if, in some people's minds, the cost of a record as well is tied up with the idea of it being a grail. But to me that doesn't really make any sense, because, you know, if you're really rich, then you can afford to buy these things that other people can't buy. And, you know, that again goes down to location. You know, where do you live? If you live in a kind of tiny little village somewhere and there's no record shop, and you only get to go to the nearest big town every 6 months, then records which are quite common to other people might actually be grails to you. And it's not, to me it seems as if perhaps, you know, it's not really up to somebody else to say, no, that's not really a grail, because a grail surely is something which is personal to you. Having said that, you know, I do accept that the word is often overused. The Kinks RCA years records, I think of these as being Grails because I never see them. I found this one a couple of weeks ago. This is Schoolboys in Disgrace, and I was absolutely over the moon to find this. It's an original copy. It's in great condition. Now, to other people, this might not seem very Grail-like at all, and I checked it out on Discogs, and you can get a copy for about £20, £30. Another record that I'm after by the Kinks is Arthur, and I kind of think of that one as being a Grail too, but then again I checked this morning on Discogs and I can get one for £20, I can order one for £20, so you know, is a record not a Grail if at the end of the day you can go onto Discogs or onto eBay and track one down? Or do you think that, you know, you shop in the places that you shop? I mean, I kind of, you know, mainly shop in charity shops. I do have a market guy who I trade with. I very rarely go to record fairs. If I went to record fairs, then maybe half these records that I think of as being Grails, I would quickly realise they're not Grails at all. You know, they're quite common records. It's just that I don't particularly get to see them. Now, this is quite an interesting one. I found this record in Oxfam a couple of years ago, and it is Rain Dogs by Tom Waits. Now, this is quite a hard record to get hold of. I checked on Discogs. It's quite difficult to get one. I mean, you start paying a bit of money for this, you know, £50, £60. Turns out actually that this version that I've got is a bootleg, and it's not actually available on Discogs at all. Now, I have heard this discussion come up on YouTube as well. People saying, if you've got a bootleg of a record, does that mean you actually properly own the record, or does it not really count? You know, so there's a kind of interesting subset of question. If you have a Grail and you find a copy of it and then it turns out to be a bootleg, does that mean you now have your Grail, or is it just a bootleg of a Grail? So in order for it to be a Grail, does it have to be an original copy? Does it have to be not a bootleg? Does it have to be a first edition? Does it have to be made in the country of origin? Does it have to be signed by the artist? Does it have to be in immaculate condition? All kinds of questions, and I suspect people are going to answer them in different ways. This last one I want to show you falls into the category of just a record that, you know, you just would never expect to find in the wild. Having said that, it's not a massively expensive or rare record. You can get them on Discogs for maybe £40. Occasionally one pops up a bit cheaper, but this is Max Romeo, War in a Babylon, and this is a record that I'd owned on CD for many years. I bought it kind of in the mid-90s, I think, and I found this in a box of junk in a kind of vintage nostalgia shop in the town where I live, and it felt like a really special find, and I got it for, I think I got it for £15, maybe a bit cheaper. I knocked him down a bit, and it was just an amazing thing to find, and I think at the time, you know, I did come on and say this is a Grail. But what do you think? Because, you know, I think I probably do use the word too much to describe records which are possibly not really Grails. They're just things that I really want, you know. I mean, for a while I was really after a copy of Band on the Run that had the poster in it because I wanted to send it to somebody, and I couldn't find one, and it just went on for, I think it went on for about 2 years. I kept finding them, and, you know, didn't have the poster, or they weren't in very good condition. And I started thinking, okay, is Band on the Run with a poster inside it now a Grail, or is that just ridiculous? It's because Band on the Run, you know, you will find a copy of Band on the Run really easily, and if you wait a while, you know, you will find one with a poster in it. Okay, so there's two records which I think I would be happy to defend as being proper, true Grails. Okay, the first one is a record by Neil Young, and it is Ragged Glory, and I've had this on CD for many years. I think I bought it in about 1991, possibly, and I've wanted a vinyl copy of it for so long. I've never seen it. They're not cheap to get hold of online. I did find one on eBay a while ago, and I don't know what was wrong with it. It looked absolutely fine, it played terribly, just awful surface noise, and I had to send it back to the vendor, so I was absolutely heartbroken about that. But yeah, if that leapt out at me from a cardboard box, I think I would think, bingo, that is a vinyl Grail for me. You know, I don't have any realistic expectation of being able to find one. And the other one, I'm going to do a screen share type thing with you for this. The album Some Fantastic Place by Squeeze. Now, this came out in 1993, and it was the first album by them that I didn't have, that I didn't buy on vinyl, because obviously '93, it was a time when there was hardly anything coming out on vinyl by then, or it seemed that way to me. But Squeeze had always been a band that I'd bought on record. You know, I bought their second record first in 1979, and I always bought their albums on record as and when they came out. This one did have a vinyl release, but I got the CD. Okay, so I'll just share the screen with you here so you can kind of see the availability of this record on vinyl. You can get one for about £140. There's one there for £76 plus shipping. There's one for £136.50 with shipping, and there's one for £172 with shipping. Now, you know, that album, it did come out on vinyl. It's possible that there might be a Squeeze fan somewhere who gets rid of their collection or who dies or something, I don't know, and you know, one day that record might pop out at me. But you know, I think out of all the ones I've shown, I think I would be really happy to defend this one to any true vinyl Grail fundamentalist and actually say, no, that is a proper Grail. But I mean, what do you think? I'd love to get your feedback on this. You know, German copy, 1974 of Autobahn. Is that a Grail or not? Would you class that as a Grail or not? And I suppose just to open that out a bit more, you know, do you have any Grails in your collection? Are there any Grails that you want? What is your definition of a Grail? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. So, I hope you enjoyed the video. Take care, folks. See you soon. Bye-bye.